25 white celebrities who are actually black that you didn't know about. Amazed, astonished, and deeply reflective, that is how I feel after researching over 100 black celebrities with hidden ancestral legacies. These are stars who possess a completely white exterior but actually carry a proud African bloodline. This profoundly impacts how we define race, the white passing phenomenon, and their journey to reclaim their cultural roots. It might leave you stunned. This video is perfect to play while resting, dining with your family, or doing housework. All information is researched and gathered from multiple sources. If there are any shortcomings, please leave a comment below to help our channel grow. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on the notification bell for our latest updates. Now let's get right into our first figures. Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey is one of the greatest female vocalists of all time, possessing an exquisite 5-octave vocal range and a series of unprecedented records. With her light skin, voluminous hair, and delicate features, many audiences around the world for decades assumed she was a white or Latina woman. However, in reality, Mariah Carey carries within her a proud but also tear-filled, multiracial legacy. Her father, Mr. Alfred Roy Carey, was an African-American aeronautical engineer mixed with Venezuelan heritage, while her mother is an Irish-American opera singer. Through a sociological, analytical lens, Mariah Carey's life is a poignant story about racial discrimination in 1970s America. The union between her father and mother was once considered taboo. Her maternal family completely disowned her mother simply because she dared to marry a black man. When the Carey family moved to a white neighborhood in New York, they had to endure severe hostility, from neighbors harming their beloved dog to burning a cross on their lawn, an intimidating act meant to cause psychological distress. Those childhood memories left a massive scar on Mariah's soul. For audiences with life experience, Mariah Carey's story brings profound empathy regarding the concept of being mixed race in the old society. She once shared that she always felt out of place, not white enough to belong to her mother's world, and not black enough to be fully embraced by her father's community. Being caught in the gray area of races forced Mariah to seek a single sanctuary music. She used her very angelic singing voice to heal herself and affirm her self-worth. Mariah Carey's greatness lies not only in her soaring high notes, but in her bravery to rise above prejudice, proving that human talent and pride are never determined by skin color or the prejudices of the world. Zendaya. Zendaya is currently one of the brightest and most influential gems in Hollywood, from cinematic blockbusters to her role as a global fashion icon. Unlike previous generations, who often tried to hide their origins, Zendaya is always open and incredibly proud of her multiracial bloodline. Her father, Mr. Kazembe Ajamu Coleman, is an African-American with deep roots in Arkansas, while her mother, Mrs. Claire Stormer, is a white teacher with German and Scottish heritage. Her real name, Zendaya, originates from the Shona language of the Zimbabwean people, meaning to give thanks. When analyzing Zendaya's case, we see an astonishing maturity in cultural and racial awareness among the younger generation. Despite carrying half-black heritage, Zendaya possesses light skin, a factor that historically in Hollywood is often easily favored and given more opportunities compared to black actresses with darker complexions. The most precious and admirable thing about Zendaya is not just her acting talent, but her humility and awareness when she frankly acknowledges this privilege of hers. She always uses her platform of fame to speak up, to protect, and demand fairness for other women of color in the entertainment industry. For our older audience, Zendaya represents a highly hopeful generational transition. If in the past, multiracial stars had to brace themselves against discrimination, today, people like Zendaya are using their very mixed heritage as a bridge to blur the lines of prejudice. She does not choose to deny either side, but embraces the legacies of both her father and mother. Zendaya's story is a beautifully exquisite perspective on self-respect. We only truly shine when we know how to cherish our roots and use our own good fortune to pave the way for those more vulnerable to step forward. Zendaya is always proud of her roots, but would you believe that figure number 3 is one of the biggest historical misunderstandings in Hollywood? An Oscar-winning A-list star has always been labeled a person of color by public opinion simply because of where she was born. The truth, coming right up, will leave you astonished. Charlize Theron. Charlize Theron is an Oscar-winning A-list star famous for her gorgeous beauty peak, acting, and regal aura. For many decades, there has been a highly common misunderstanding in the media and on statistical lists when many people assume she carries Black heritage African American simply because she was born and raised on the African continent. This is when we need to provide a clear analysis to clarify one of the biggest misunderstandings about geography and race in Hollywood. The truth is, Charlize Theron is 100% of white descent. She was born in Benoni, South Africa, and is a descendant of the Afrikaners, white settlers of Dutch, French, and German descent who have lived in South Africa for centuries. This misunderstanding stems from equating the concept of African with Black. I believe that including Charlize Theron in this list is a wonderful opportunity for us to re-educate awareness. Africa is a vast continent with massive ethnic diversity, and being born in Africa does not equate to carrying the genetics of a Black person. Charlize's childhood was tied to the final days of the apartheid regime in South Africa. Despite being white and enjoying certain privileges in South African society, at the time, she grew up amidst an incredibly shocking family tragedy when her mother had to use a firearm in self-defense to protect her daughter from an abusive father. For mature audiences, clarifying Charlize Theron's roots is not only a respect for historical truth, but also a lesson in nuance regarding cultural awareness. We cherish Charlize's talent, cherish how she overcame family tragedy to reach the top, and at the same time, we also need to be alert to mechanical, unfounded racial categorization information often floating on social media. Halsey. Halsey, whose real name is Ashley Nicolette Frangipane, is a character-filled singer-songwriter who has swept global music charts with her haunting voice and unique style. If one just glances at her exterior, with her fair skin, bright eyes, and European features, 99% of audiences would affirm Halsey is a pure Caucasian woman. But the truth always contains surprises. Her father is an African American with Irish heritage, while her mother is a white woman of Italian and Hungarian descent. Halsey is exactly a prime example in American society of the white passing phenomenon, people who carry multiracial bloodlines but possess physical appearances entirely like white people. Through the lens of social psychology, Halsey's life is proof of imposter syndrome within her own roots. Halsey once shared deeply tormenting thoughts when walking down the street with her Black father. Many strangers looked at them with scrutinizing eyes, even doubting they were father and daughter. Looking like a white person brought her safety and invisible privileges against societal discrimination, but deep down, it carved a large hole in her identity. She felt guilty for not having to taste the hardships her father or other Black people had to bear, but simultaneously felt hurt when the Black community sometimes did not consider her a part of their flesh and blood. For experienced audiences, Halsey's story evokes profound reflection on the boundaries of bloodlines. Skin color is not the only measure to evaluate a person's roots. Halsey chose to face this internal conflict by continuously speaking out in support of the civil rights movement for Black people. She proves that even if your appearance can deceive the eyes of the world, the heart and the blood flowing in your veins are what determine who you are. Her story is a humanistic reminder We should not judge or deny anyone's origins based solely on their outward appearance. Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter is a great icon of American sports, the legendary captain of the New York Yankees baseball team. He brought to sports the image of an elegant, calm gentleman and a resilient, competitive spirit. Carrying a multiracial bloodline with an African-American father and a mother of Irish and German descent, Derek Jeter grew up in a family environment that highly valued discipline and respect. His parents met in Germany while serving together in the military, a romance that crossed national borders and the strict racial barriers of 1970s America. Analyzing Derek Jeter's life, we see a completely different approach to the issue of race. Instead of turning his roots into a topic of controversy or a media-attracting tool, Derek chose the heavy silence of talent. Growing up in Michigan, he certainly could not avoid discriminatory glances aimed at a multiracial family, but under the excellent education of his parents, he learned to resist with accurate bat swings on the field. I highly appreciate Derek's demeanor. He did not need to shout to prove which side he belonged to. His outstanding existence and exemplary attitude toward life are the strongest answers, shattering all prejudices about the capabilities of people of color or mixed-race individuals in sports. For our older audience, Derek Jeter is the model of a mature, brave man. In a society where people are frequently divided by skin color, Derek became a symbol of unity. Someone capable of making even the most conservative white audiences stand up and applaud. His story leaves us a precious life philosophy. Instead of letting others define you by your background, define yourself through your actual legacy and contributions. Derek Jeter is not only the pride of the multiracial community, but also the pride of true sports, where talent and character are the sole measures of greatness. Derek Jeter chose a calm demeanor to shatter prejudices, but the sports legend, at position number 6, carries an ultimate tearing pain when his black father was demeaned, right in the stands. The tear-filled story behind the aura of the pitch will surely leave you shaken. Do not look away. Ryan Giggs. Ryan Giggs is one of the greatest monuments in world football history, a man who dedicated his entire youth to the Manchester United club. With curly hair, dark skin, and terrifying speed on the pitch, few know that behind the image of an exemplary Welsh gentleman is a highly complex multiracial legacy. His father, Mr. Danny Wilson, is a black rugby player of Sierra Leonean descent, while his mother is a white Welsh woman. After his parents divorced, he decided to take his mother's surname Giggs, an action that the media at the time inadvertently considered a whitewashing of his identity. However, from the sociological perspective of 1980s Britain, Ryan Giggs's decision was a survival effort in a football environment full of extreme racial discrimination. I believe that Giggs's greatest pain lay not in physical injuries on the pitch, but in having to witness his black father being demeaned by audiences with harsh words every time he played. Growing up carrying African blood in a conservative European country forged an iron spirit in Ryan. He did not choose to resist with words or rebellious acts. Instead, he turned his anger into a flame of passion, using his magic feet to conquer the whole world. For sports-loving audiences who clearly understand the historical context, Ryan Giggs's story carries an invisible weight. He is living proof that you do not need to shout for the world to know who you are. His resilient silence and tireless contributions shattered all prejudices about origins. Giggs never denied his Sierra Leonean roots. He embraced them silently and used his very greatness to force those who once hurled demeaning words at his family to stand up and applaud in respect. That is the sweetest and classiest revenge of a true legend. Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick is not only a star of the NFL, but he has become a historical symbol of the modern civil rights movement in America. The story of Colin's roots is one of the most heartbreaking yet greatest paradoxes. He carries black heritage from his biological father, who left early on, and white heritage from his biological mother. However, he was adopted and raised by the Kaepernick family, an entirely white family. Growing up in the boundless love of his adoptive parents, Colin always had to face a harsh reality. He is a black man living in an American society still full of underlying prejudices. Analyzing deeply Colin's historic kneeling action during the playing of the American national anthem, we see a tear and ultimate courage. He grew up with the privilege of being sheltered by a white family, but he did not allow himself to turn a blind eye to the injustices and hardships that the black community was enduring. I assess that Colin's kneeling action was not an insult to the nation, as many conservative newspapers once accused, but the most urgent cry for help for the lives of vulnerable black people. He used his platform of fame, wagering his entire multi-million-dollar career in exchange for the awakening of a whole system. For our older audience, those who once witnessed the 60s civil rights movement of Martin Luther King Jr., Colin Kaepernick's action brings an incredibly powerful resonance. He had to pay a very high price when he was ostracized from the NFL, but in return he earned the eternal respect of history. Colin's story teaches us a core lesson about compassion. Whether you are raised in luxury or in a different environment, never turn your back on your roots and your compatriots who are suffering. Colin turned kneeling into the most proudly upright posture of human conscience. Wentworth Miller. Wentworth Miller, the handsome actor who took the global small screen by storm with the series Prison Break, possesses an intellectual beauty, captivating blue eyes, and flawless fair skin. For many early years of his career, Hollywood and the public implicitly considered him a standard white male idol. But the truth always knows how to cause a shock. His father is an African-American scholar with a mix of Jamaican and German blood, while his mother is a white woman of European descent. Wentworth Miller is exactly a victim and also a living witness to the complexity of the white passing syndrome when your appearance completely hides your black roots. From a psychological perspective, Wentworth's life was an invisible prison, even more terrifying than the prisons on film. He once shared the horrifying obsession of having to sit silently listening to those around him, hurling demeaning, mocking words at black people, simply because they assumed he was a white person like them. The pain of having to swallow his anger inward, the feeling of guilt, as if he were betraying his own black father, pushed Wentworth into deep depression. I believe that his initial silence was not cowardice, but the consequence of an entertainment industry that always likes to label and categorize people into narrow boxes. For mature audiences, Wentworth Miller's decision to later publicly reveal the whole truth about his multiracial bloodline and psychological hidden corners is an act of supreme courage. He broke all prejudices to live true to his ego. His story is a profound reminder of the diversity of humanity. Lineage is not defined by the skin color visible on the outside. Wentworth taught us that freeing oneself from the fake expectations of society is the greatest prison break that every human must undertake to protect their soul. Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin, one of the most powerful and explosive forwards of the NBA, always attracts every gaze, with dunks carrying immense power. His exterior often causes great curiosity for fans: tightly curled red hair, fair skin dotted with freckles, and a flawless physique. Blake carries within him a beautifully exquisite intersection between a father who is a Haitian-American black basketball coach and a white mother who is a teacher. He was born and raised in Oklahoma, a region with a conservative culture and fairly distinct racial divisions in America. When analyzing Blake Griffin's journey to rise, we see the miraculous healing power of sports. Growing up in Oklahoma, Blake and his brother once had to face curious glances, and even gossip about their multiracial family. However, I assess that the very educational environment from a mother who is a teacher and a father who is a coach created a solid foundation for Blake. He did not let himself get stuck between two worlds, but used his outstanding athletic talent as a bridge. On the basketball court, no one cares if you are white or black. They only respect you through your sweat and true talent. Looking at how Blake Griffin behaves in everyday life, older audiences will see an interesting contrast. In contrast to his wild, brave nature, on the court, he is an extremely calm, educated, and incredibly humorous person. Blake's story is a positive message about racial harmony. He proves that mixed-race children are not divided individuals, but the convergence of the essence of both cultures. Blake Griffin used his dedication to prove that differences in appearance are merely the background to highlight the talent and relentless efforts of a person. Maya Rudolph. Maya Rudolph is one of the most charming and multi-talented comedians on American television, especially famous through the show Saturday Night Live. She possesses a face with incredibly interesting intersecting features, making many audiences unable to guess exactly what ethnicity she belongs to. In reality, Maya is the sweet fruit of a romance deeply imbued with art. Her mother was Minnie Riperton, the legendary black singer with the immortal hit Lovin' You and a soaring vocal range, while her father is Richard Rudolph, a white music producer of Jewish Ashkenazi descent. The combination of African American culture and Jewish culture created an incredibly rich soul for Maya. From a psychological perspective, Maya Rudolph's life is proof of the willpower to overcome tragedy through optimism. Middle-aged audiences surely still remember the sudden departure of the famous singer Minnie Riperton due to breast cancer when she was only 31 years old. At that time, Maya was only a 7-year-old girl. I believe that the pain of losing her mother too early forced Maya to seek a psychological defense mechanism, and she chose laughter. Growing up with an appearance that was unclear about race sometimes made it difficult for her to position herself in Hollywood, but Maya turned that very diversity into her most formidable weapon. She could transform into dozens of characters of all different ethnicities using her innate talent. For the audience, Maya Rudolph not only brings laughter, but also brings the warmth of a massive cultural fortune. Despite pursuing a comedy career, she still fully inherited the love of art from her great black mother. Maya's story is a love song about intense vitality. She used her very humor, intelligence, and proudly mixed bloodline to soothe the pain of loss in her childhood. Maya Rudolph teaches us that even when facing the most cruel tragedies of fate, we can still choose to smile and continue writing the glorious legacy left behind by those who came before. Rashida Jones. Rashida Jones is a talented actress, writer, and producer carrying an intellectual beauty and a radiant smile familiar on the Hollywood screen. Her background can be considered a convergence of double essence in American cultural history. Her father is Quincy Jones, one of the greatest African-American music moguls of all time, the man behind the success of Michael Jackson. Her mother was Peggy Lipton, a beautiful actress of Eastern European Jewish Ashkenazi descent, carrying two massive cultural legacies that both suffered much trauma in the past. Black and Jewish forged an incredibly sophisticated and profound Rashida. Through a sociological, analytical lens, Rashida's life is a difficult puzzle regarding identity crisis within the cinematic capital. With light skin, straight hair, and delicate features, she was frequently considered a white woman by those around her, and even by casting directors. I believe that Rashida's greatest struggle was not a lack of affection or material things, but the fact that she always had to find a way to affirm respect for both halves of her bloodline. She once shared her discomfort when being forced to choose to play roles that only carried a certain racial color, because that meant she had to deny half of her father's or mother's roots. For our older audience, the image of Rashida Jones is the symbol of a new elite generation. Highly educated, she graduated from Harvard University and never relying on the powerful shadow of her family. She uses her humor, intellect, and pen to smash cliché stereotypes about multiracial women on screen. Rashida proved that a person can simultaneously be proud of her father's black heritage and revere her mother's Jewish traditions without having to compromise or cut away any part of her soul. Her story is proof of the power of knowledge in eliminating all prejudice barriers. Logic. Logic, whose real name is Sir Robert Bryson Hall II, is a talented rapper who has received a Grammy nomination. If one only looks at his appearance with fair skin, light-colored hair, and deep blue eyes, 100% of audiences would assume he is a pure Caucasian person. However, Logic carries African American heritage from his biological father. Unlike multiracial stars born into luxury, Logic's childhood was a terrifying nightmare in a slum in Maryland. His father was an addicted black man who was frequently absent, while his mother, a white woman, suffered from mental illness and repeatedly used the cruelest racial slurs to insult her children and husband. Analyzing Logic's circumstances deeply, we touch upon one of the most painful hidden corners of the white passing syndrome. I assess that Logic's tragedy is the tragedy of double abandonment. Out on the street, he wasn't targeted by the police because he looked like a young white man, but within the very hip-hop community, which he considered the life preserver of his life, he was constantly doubted, mocked, and had to struggle to prove the authenticity of his black roots. The pain of having his own biological mother demean his father's skin color, combined with society stripping away his right to self-identify, left deep psychological scars. With mature audiences, Logic's music is not just booming beats, but a scream demanding existence. When he wrote the hit song about the suicide prevention hotline, 1-800-27-38255, that was when he turned personal pain into salvation for millions of people. Logic's story is a costly lesson about judgment. We can never know what hells a person has had to go through just by looking at their skin color. Logic taught us that the blood flowing in the veins is more important than the outer shell, and no one has the right to strip away pride in the roots of any individual. Paula Patton. Paula Patton is a seductive Hollywood beauty who stood alongside Tom Cruise in the blockbuster Mission Impossible and left a strong impression through many diverse roles. Possessing a sharp beauty, large round eyes, and a radiant olive skin tone, Paula carries within her the perfect combination between an African American father and a white mother of German English and Dutch descent. Growing up right near the 20th Century Fox studios in Los Angeles, Paula was exposed to diverse art and culture from a young age, creating a confident and incredibly captivating demeanor. When analyzing Paula Patton's case, we must mention a historical unwritten rule in America, the one-drop rule. In the past, if a person had any black ancestor, society would automatically classify them into the black community, regardless of the percentage of white blood they had. Although this rule has been abolished today, its cultural aftereffects remain. I highly appreciate Paula's bluntness when she publicly declared, although she immensely loves and respects her white mother, she always positions herself as a black woman because she clearly understands the world, and Hollywood always perceive and treat her as a woman of color. For our older audience, Paula Patton's choice is not a rejection of her mother, but an acceptance of reality with all pride. She does not try to whitewash herself to seek favor from directors, but uses her very beauty and talent to expand the definition of the beauty of women of African descent on the silver screen. Her story carries an incredibly powerful message about self-respect. No matter what society labels you, how you hold your head high, facing it is the most important thing. Paula Patton proved that a mixed bloodline is not a hindrance, but a kaleidoscope helping the human soul become richer and more brilliant. Amber Rose. Amber Rose is one of the most controversial and attention-grabbing figures of modern pop culture. With her shaved platinum-dyed head, fiery figure, and daring fashion style, she was once the muse of the most powerful rappers in the world. The blood flowing in Amber is an incredibly complex mixture. Her father carries Irish and Italian blood, while her mother is of Cape Verdean and Scottish descent. Cape Verdeans originally being a mix of African and Portuguese people. It is this exotic and elusive beauty that turned her into a phenomenon in the entertainment industry. However, from a sociological, analytical perspective, to only view Amber Rose as a moving flower vase or a sex symbol of the hip-hop world is a highly superficial assessment. I believe that Amber's career is a journey to reclaim control from the hands of powerful men. For many years, her multiracial beauty was commercialized by the music industry, turning her into an ornament to honor the success of male rappers. The prejudice also came from people assuming that a mixed-race girl with an overly seductive exterior could not possess deep thinking. But Amber Rose made mature audiences completely change their view when she stood up to initiate the Slut Walk movement, a campaign to protect women from victim blaming in harassment cases. She used her own controversial image to speak a truth. No one, regardless of what they wear or what their background is, deserves to be insulted or stripped of respect. Amber Rose's story is a powerful slap to the hypocrisy of society. She taught millions of women how to love their bodies, cherish their distinct mixed bloodline, and dare to stand up to demand equality, proving that behind a wild exterior is a brave heart yearning for justice. Faith Evans. Faith Evans is an irreplaceable monument of 90s R&B and hip-hop, dubbed the First Lady of the Bad Boy Records label. Possessing a powerful angelic voice, blonde hair, and light skin, Faith is actually of mixed race, with a white mother of English-Italian descent and an African-American father who abandoned mother and daughter before she was born. She was raised by her mother and black foster parents in an African-American neighborhood in New Jersey. Therefore, despite having an appearance very similar to a white person, Faith's entire breath culture and soul were molded by the black community and church music. Analyzing deeply into Faith Evans's life, we see a cruel historical tragedy that she was inadvertently swept into. Marrying the rap legend, the notorious B.I.G. Biggie, brought her to the peak of fame, but also pushed her into the eye of the storm of the bloodiest East Coast, West Coast war in American music history. I assess that Faith's pain is not only the pain of a widow losing her husband to gun violence at too young an age, but the tearing of a multiracial woman having to brace herself to stand firm amidst a hip-hop world full of hostility and toxic masculinity. Society often only sees the glories on stage, but rarely does anyone understand the terrifying psychological pressure when she had to raise her child alone and face threats. For audiences who lived through the 90s, Faith Evans is the model of an unbelievably resilient strength. She did not let herself sink into tragedy or hatred, but used her very sobbing voice in the song "I'll Be Missing You" to heal the wounds of an entire generation. Faith Evans's story affirms one thing: the blood in your veins may shape your physical form, but it is the cultural environment and the choice to face adversity that determine your soul. From a mixed-race girl abandoned by her biological father, she rose to become a queen using music to light up the darkest corners of hip-hop history. Jennifer Beals. For mature audiences, the image of the welder yearning to become a ballet dancer in the classic film Flashdance, 1983, has become an indelible memory. Jennifer Beals, the lead actress, possesses a timeless beauty and a hard-to-define charm. At the time the movie took the world by storm, most audiences assumed she was a white woman with a radiant tan. But in truth, Jennifer carries mixed blood. Her father was an African American who owned a grocery store, and her mother is a white Irish American elementary school teacher. Through the lens of social analysis, Jennifer Beals' childhood was a silent battle with the pain of loss and identity definition. Her father passed away when she was only 10 years old, leaving a massive void in connection with her black heritage. Possessing a white passing appearance in the context of '80s, Hollywood was both a privilege and a shackle. I believe Jennifer's greatness lies in the fact that she never exploited her appearance to deny her roots. She once frankly shared her feeling of outrage when having to witness those around her making racist remarks simply because they assumed she was a white person. Jennifer Beals' journey is a costly lesson in being true to oneself. She always proudly affirms herself as a multiracial woman and uses her fame to pave the way for other actors of color. Her story reminds us that appearance privileges can help you easily step through the doors of a career, but only pride and self-respect regarding your roots will help you stand firmly and peacefully in your soul. Jennifer Beals proved that true beauty does not lie in which race you belong to, but in how you honor the legacy of those who gave birth to you. Pete Wentz. When mentioning the pop-punk or emo rock genre of the 2000s Fall Out Boy is a legendary name, and Pete Wentz, the band's bassist and lyricist, is the soul of those moody tracks. With his straight hair falling over his eyes, fair skin, and distinctly punk fashion style, Pete Wentz was always considered an icon for white suburban youth in America. Yet few expected that the man with that rebellious exterior carries within him an incredibly diverse cultural legacy. His mother is a Jamaican-American black woman, while his father carries English and German blood. Analyzing Pete Wentz's case, we must place him in the context of the rock music industry, a territory long dominated and shaped by white culture. For an artist carrying black/Jamaican blood to stand at the pinnacle of the emo punk genre is a highly interesting breaking of prejudice. I assess that Pete Wentz never intentionally hid his identity. It is just that society and the media were too used to framing music genres by skin color. The sharp, highly narrative, and sometimes internally conflicted lyrics in his music are not only the voice of youth, but also faintly carry the loneliness of someone who always feels he doesn't completely fit into any mold. For our older audience, Pete Wentz's career carries a powerful message about cultural intersection. He brought a part of the black soul into a music genre that few expected. Pete's story proves that art has no racial borders. Regardless of what blood you carry, authenticity and emotion is what connects human hearts. Pete Wentz tore down that invisible separating wall, confidently shining with talent and turning his genealogical diversity into a highly seductive taboo in the rock music world. Troian Bellisario. Troian Bellisario swept the small screen with her role as the smart, perfect Spencer Hastings in the hit series Pretty Little Liars. In real life, Troian is truly a princess of the Hollywood world. Her father is Donald Bellisario, a powerful television producer of Italian and Serbian descent, the man behind a series of blockbusters. However, what most astonished the public is the roots of her mother, Mrs. Deborah Pratt, a talented African-American actress and writer mixed with Creole French heritage. With delicate features, porcelain white skin, and sharp eyes, Troian is often mistaken for being 100% white. Through the lens of psychology, Troian Bellisario's life is a typical example of the invisible pressures surrounding children born into luxury and carrying multiracial bloodlines. Growing up in wealth and privilege, Troian had to struggle with severe psychological illnesses like anorexia and a desire for perfection to the point of self-torment. I believe that part of this conflict comes from her always trying to find an authentic ego amidst a Hollywood full of falsehoods. Carrying the black heritage of her mother, but living in a shell that society assumes is upper class white Troian, had to spend many years learning how to love both halves of her soul. Troian's story brings deep empathy for parents. It proves that wealth or flawless appearance is never a shield protecting a person from mental trauma. Troian's courage in publicly speaking about her psychological difficulties and her intense pride in her mother's Creole culture is a long step forward in self-healing. She taught us that true liberation does not come from trying to be perfect in the eyes of others, but comes from bravely embracing every hidden corner, every legacy, and every flaw of oneself. Gugu Mbatha-Raw. Gugu Mbatha-Raw is a precious gem of British cinema, famous for her elegant aristocratic beauty and deeply profound acting in works like Belle or Black Mirror. She possesses a mix of bloodlines bearing strong historical marks. Her father is a black South African doctor who had to flee the harsh apartheid regime, while her mother is a white British nurse. The combination of the resilience of a political refugee and the calmness of British culture created an incredibly special Gugu Mbatha-Raw on screen. When analyzing Gugu's artistic path, we see a miraculous connection between personal fate and historical roles. The role of Dido Elizabeth Bell, an aristocratic lady carrying mixed black and white blood, living in 18th century British society, seemed born for Gugu. I evaluate that Gugu is not just acting, she is recounting the very story of the blood she carries within her. Her father's pain of having to leave his homeland of South Africa because of his skin color forged in her a profound awareness of injustice and the value of freedom. The fact that she was frequently mistaken for a white person of Spanish or Italian descent early in her career did not cause her to lose self-respect regarding her African roots. For mature audiences, Gugu Mbatha-Raw is the embodiment of elegance combined with steely bravery. She does not shout about feminism or racism with bombastic words. She uses her own sophisticated acting talent to recreate the heroic and tragic historical pages of Black people. Gugu's story is a beautifully exquisite lesson on legacy. We cannot choose where we are born, but we can choose how to use our lives to honor the sacrifices of the previous generation. She has made her refugee father proud, proving that mixed blood is a gift, bringing the strength to heal the wounds of history. Lauren London. Lauren London is a familiar actress in American cinema, frequently transforming into character-filled, strong Black girls in films deeply imbued with Los Angeles street culture like ATL or The Game. Possessing a light brown complexion, charming dimples, and an unmistakable aura, few know that she is the crystallization of two seemingly unrelated cultures. Her mother is African American, while her father is a white Jewish Ashkenazi man. This combination brought Lauren a colorful childhood, but also quite a bit of contemplation regarding identity when growing up in a divided Los Angeles. Analyzing Lauren London's life deeply, we clearly see the power of cultural choice. Despite carrying half-white Jewish blood, Lauren always proudly positions herself closely tied to the culture of African Americans. I believe this connection is not a rejection of her father, but a spiritual harmony with the community values, brotherhood, and resilience of Black people on the West Coast. The greatest pain in her life is perhaps the sudden departure of her life partner, legendary rapper Nipsey Hussle. In the very depths of loss, Lauren did not collapse. She stood up to become a spiritual pillar, a symbol of loyalty and willpower to live for an entire community. For the audience, Lauren London's story carries weight regarding loyalty and rising from adversity. She proves that being a multiracial person does not mean you have to live a neutral or faint life. You can absolutely dedicate your love and strength fully to a culture you feel you belong to. Lauren's strength after personal tragedies is a massive source of inspiration for anyone facing the pain of loss. She used her own life to write an epic about resilience where mixed blood becomes the strength to connect and heal. Madison Pettis. Madison Pettis was once the national daughter of the American screen, taking millions of audiences by storm. With her role as the mischievous, curly-haired little girl next to superstar Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in the movie The Game Plan, 2007. With her radiant smile and signature voluminous hair, Madison always brought a positive energy source. In reality, she is a vivid testament to the diversity of modern America. Her father is an African American, while her mother carries within her a blend of Italian, French, and Irish blood. This mixture brings Madison a sweet but equally sharp beauty. Viewing Madison Pettis's growing up process through the lens of the media, we see the change in how Hollywood treats mixed-race actors. If in previous decades, multiracial child stars were often forced to straighten their hair or change their appearance to suit the tastes of white audiences, Madison was loved for her very own original difference. However, I assess that Madison's real pressure came from having to escape the shadow of the good little girl of Disney when entering adulthood. Her physical transformation, seductive fashion style, and confidence met with quite a few judgments from audiences who still wanted to keep her in a childhood box. With older audiences, Madison Pettis's journey is a picture reflecting the maturity of our own children. She bravely stepped out of her comfort zone, not letting herself be trapped in the framed expectations of public opinion. Her always being proud of her father's black roots while enjoying personal freedom is a powerful message about feminism. Madison's story reminds us that no one has the right to force a woman to forever live according to the image that society desires. Racial diversity lies not only in appearance, but also in the freedom to develop, transform, and affirm the unique value of oneself. Jessica Szohr. Jessica Szohr left a deep mark in the hearts of youth globally with her role as Vanessa Abrams, an edgy, independent bohemian girl with a wild beauty in the hit series Gossip Girl. Her dark skin, bright eyes, and liberal style created a fashion fever at the time. Although frequently mistaken for being of Latina or Hispanic descent, Jessica actually carries within her an incredibly interesting, multi-generational genealogical structure. Her father is white of Hungarian and German descent, while her mother carries mixed blood between African American and European. It is this complex legacy that created the keyword exotic that is always associated with her name. From the perspective of pop culture analysis, Jessica's role in Gossip Girl is an important turning point in bringing multiracial actors into the upper-class youth film genre, which was inherently previously a playground only for blonde white actors. I believe that Jessica's presence on screen shattered the monopoly on the standard beauty of American television. However, it also brought hidden challenges. Mixed-race actors like her are often pigeonholed into roles of the outsider friend or different supporting character instead of being given the opportunity to shine in central leading roles. The struggle between being recognized for true talent and only being used as an exotic spice on screen is a harsh reality. For the audience, Jessica Szohr represents the pluralistic beauty of the 21st century. She is not noisy about her roots, but the confidence in how she expresses herself has become a source of inspiration for many young girls carrying mixed blood who are confused about their identity. Jessica's story teaches us a lesson in harmony. The more bloodlines you carry, the more you become a unique entity. The blend of Africa, Germany, and Hungary did not cause her to lose her direction, but on the contrary, it forged in her the ability to adapt and an unmistakable magnetism among a forest of Hollywood stars. Carmen Ejogo. Carmen Ejogo is a British actress carrying an intellectual, calm demeanor and possessing psychological depth roles that are incredibly impressive, typically her twice transforming into Coretta Scott King, wife of the great civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. This choice by directors is not random because Carmen carries within her a highly powerful cultural combination. Her mother is a white Scottish woman, and her father is a Nigerian carrying Yoruba, blood black. Born in London, Carmen is the perfect intersection between elegant European aura and the latent strength of Africa. Analyzing deeply into Carmen Ejogo's professional pressures, we can only then fully see her bravery. In the film industry, a mixed-race actor possessing light skin being chosen to play great black historical figures frequently causes fiery controversies about the concept of colorism, the favoring of light skin within the black community itself. I assert that Carmen had to carry a massive pressure on her shoulders to prove that she does not use skin color privilege to steal opportunities from others, but she uses true talent and dedicated historical research to honor great women of color. Her acting was so profound that it extinguished all criticism. With our older audience, those who always value history, Carmen Ejogo is a wonderful testament to the power of empathy. Carrying mixed blood does not distance her from the pains of black people. On the contrary, it gives her a multidimensional perspective to portray their resilience on screen most authentically. Carmen's story is a powerful message. The weight of a cultural legacy does not lie in how dark your skin is, but lies in responsibility, reverence, and how you protect the history of your people. She used the very intersection of Scotland and Nigeria to create a peak artistic bridge, moving the hearts of millions of viewers worldwide. Cash Warren. Closing this list is a figure who does not frequently appear before the camera flashes, but possesses an incredibly massive influence in Hollywood. Cash Warren. He is a talented film producer and is best known to the public as the loyal husband of beauty Jessica Alba. Bearing an elegant exterior with fair skin, few realize that Cash Warren is the son of Michael Warren, the famous African-American actor who once took the 80s television series Hill Street Blues by storm. Cash's mother is a white woman, bringing him a highly interesting mixed heritage. Through the lens of modern social analysis, Cash Warren's life represents a wonderful shift in power for the multiracial community. Instead of having to struggle to find recognition in front of the lens, like his father's generation, Cash chooses to master the game from behind the scenes. I highly appreciate his using his sharp thinking, business talent, and cinematic knowledge to create quality works while simultaneously building an admirable family home. The combination of his mixed black/white blood with the Latina Mexican blood of Jessica Alba has created a generation of children deeply imbued with multiculturalism, a typical model for the future of America. For audiences who have experienced many ups and downs, Cash Warren's story brings an incredibly warm and fulfilling ending. He has proven that success does not necessarily have to be loud or ostentatious. The calmness, the way he steps back to support his wife to shine, and his boundless pride in his black father have created a portrait of a mature, brave man. Cash Warren reminds us of a truth. An ideal society is not a place where everyone is exactly the same, but a place where racial differences are blended with love, understanding, and awe. Ladies and gentlemen, the 24 stories just now are a powerful testament showing that skin color is never a measure to evaluate a person. The greatest value we receive today is exactly the lesson about self-respect, pride, and the strength to rise up to protect our heritage roots against all prejudices. We wish you always have truly peaceful, warm, and joyful moments with your beloved family. Please hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell to continue accompanying us in the next videos. Respectful greetings and see you again.